Hello, everybody, and welcome on in. We are halfway through the month of November. It's week 13. Time to do another edition of Power Rankings. But before we do, I want to quickly say if you are new, subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Leave a like and let me know your thoughts down below. Now let's jump right into it. We begin with the fact that the Indianapolis Colts were on their bye week, so thus they fall to an honorable mention since they're on their bye. That's how things work around here. If they did play, they would be in the top 10 most likely. Now, the first actual honorable mention is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dominance, just straight up dominance for the Jaguars, coming off of a really tough loss the week prior. They were in control pretty much the entire game in this one, and it wasn't even very close. Trevor Lawrence threw the ball fine, going for 153 yards and a touchdown. The ground game was great, nearly 200 yards on the day. Travis Etienne had 2 touchdowns, and Tutain got a score as well. They each had 73 and 74 yards, respectively, in this one. The defense shut down the minimal run attempts that they did face against the Chargers, while Justin Herbert, he struggled throwing the ball. He didn't cross the 100-yard mark in this game. They picked him off once. It was a great day for the Jaguars as a whole, a great bounce back win, and they sit in the playoff picture currently in the AFC, and they feel just fine. They are an honorable mention. The next honorable mention is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they played a very tough game against the Bills on the road, but they simply came up short. It was a shootout, pretty much required scores on every single drive. They just couldn't close it out when they needed to. Baker didn't throw the greatest in this game, 173 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He used his legs a bit in this one as well. It did help the offense in this game, but again, just simply wasn't enough. John Tucker had a career performance in this one, over 100 yards on the ground, 3 total touchdowns in this one. He had a standout performance. Just a shame it was in a losing effort. The defense played pretty meh. They played the run pretty well, but it's mainly because Buffalo did not focus on it all that much. But against the air and against Josh Allen, 217 yards passing and 6 total touchdowns was a really rough performance. They did force 3 turnovers, but it just simply wasn't enough. And that goes into why they lost this game, I feel. They only got 9 points off of those 3 turnovers. If even one of them would have been a touchdown, we might be talking about a different outcome here. But instead, Buccaneers lost and they fall to the honorable mention. The final honorable mention is the Baltimore Ravens. It was a rough offensive performance that kept them an honorable mention for at least another week. They really did struggle against Cleveland's defense in this game. Lamar had 193 yards through the air. He threw 2 interceptions in this one, including a pick 6 to Devin Bush. Derrick Henry had a great game going for 103 yards and a touchdown. Mark Andrews, he even got involved in the ground, having a 35-yard touchdown. That was the game-winning play, and that was a beautifully designed play, all things considered. The defense, they shut down Cleveland in the second half to allow for the rally. Dylan Gabriel only had 68 yards through the air before getting hurt in this one. And then when Shadur Sanders came in, he had 47 yards, and they picked him off in this game. The Browns' ground game was held to 106 yards on 4.2 yards per carry, so a pretty solid day by this Baltimore run defense, and just made things tough for the Browns' offense the entire time. It was a solid win, but not a dominant win like I was expecting out of the Baltimore Ravens. So because of that, they stick around in the honorable mentions for at least one more week. Number 10 is the Chicago Bears. It wasn't pretty, but because of a win over the Minnesota Vikings, the Bears are into the top 10. But they did nearly blow this game in the fourth quarter. Caleb Williams played fine in this one, 193 yards on 50% completion. The ground game was also just fine, 140 yards, but it was on 3.6 yards per carry. So a pretty average day there, all things considered. It was the defense that really stood out in this game to help get the win. DJ McCarthy was held to 150 yards through the air. Aaron Jones held to 70 yards on the ground on 16 carries. Again, it wasn't a pretty win for Chicago. They nearly blew this at the end, but they did get the win. They did play well defensively, and Caleb Williams did lead a game-winning drive, so those are still positives to take from it. And the other positive is they stand alone on top of the NFC North after 11 weeks, which I was definitely not expecting entering this season. But they still haven't really played a complete game yet, at least in my opinion. And until they do, I'm going to be second guessing them throughout the rest of the way. So because of that, they're only at number 10. Number 9 is the Los Angeles Chargers. And that was an ugly game for the Chargers. Trey Lance got some action in this one in the fourth. Herbert only had 81 yards throwing in this game. He did lead the team in rushing, but that was with 21 rushing yards. The Chargers as a whole had 16 carries for 42 yards. They really did abandon the run, which doesn't make a lot of sense when you realize this game was close leading into halftime. The fact that they really did not try to run the ball is weird to me because they've been a pretty solid running team, even with Amarian Hampton and Najee Harris out. The defense gave up 192 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Trevor Lawrence threw for 153 yards, so he had a fine day. The Chargers as a team had 8 first downs throughout the entire game, 45 total plays, and 135 yards of offense. They were outgained, they were outplayed by a large margin in this one, and especially in that second half when things really got ugly and really got out of hand. It was a very bad loss for the Chargers, coming off of a pretty fine win against the Steelers last week. So with this loss, they fall down to number 9. Number 8 is the Detroit Lions, and that was an ugly game, an ugly performance from the Lions offense especially. They just never felt like they were able to finish a drive throughout the entire game, partly because they couldn't. In ways, it felt similar to your Tampa loss from last season, where the over-reliance on fourth down conversions pretty much cost them in this game. They went 0 for 5 on fourth down. Simply not going to be able to win games doing that. Especially not going to be able to win games when Jared Goff goes for 255 yards with a touchdown and interception, but had his lowest career completion percentage at roughly 38%. So he was well off his game in this one. Only 18 carries for Gibbs and Montgomery. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and they were struggling at times to get the ground game going, but still felt like they needed to utilize them a bit more, even if it is just simple 2-3 yard runs, which they were getting because they averaged 3.3 and 4.5 yards per carry respectively. The defense did literally all they could in this game to try and make the Lions just somehow have a chance. Kind of got a little screwed over by a penalty there, but I don't think the Lions deserved to win this game anyway, so it's kind of a moot point. They just could not score throughout the game. The Lions, a very tough loss. They fall to number 8. Number 7 is the Green Bay Packers, and it was a good bounce back win. Not as dominant as you would expect from the Packers against the Giants this season, but a win is a win. Love got banged up a bit in this one, but he's played through it. He still played fine, 174 yards and 2 touchdowns on this one. Josh Jacobs got banged up. His status is day to day, so luckily it's not anything more severe as they're going to need Josh Jacobs down this stretch. So that's fine. That's good. The ground game as a whole, as a collective, 128 yards on 23 carries. So a pretty solid day in the office for the running back room. Still in the receiver room, though, no one has really stood out and be the next driving force of the offense the same way that Jaden Reed was and that Tucker Kraft was. Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson each got 4 receptions in this game. Both led the team, and no one else really had above 2. So it seems like it's going to be one of those two to lead the way going forward. The defense played fine when they weren't forcing a 3-and-out against the Giants. They were letting drives go into the red zone. They did pick off Jameis Winston to ice the game, but it's not the type of defensive performance I was expecting from them. 201 yards given up through the air, 142 yards allowed on the ground. It's a win, but it was closer than it probably should have been with how these two teams are stacked up this season. But you still get that bounce back win after a loss to the Panthers the last week. So it's fine. The Green Bay Packers are at number 7. The Denver Broncos are next at number 6, and they get a big time win against the Chiefs. It's their second win against Mahomes in his career. And it's a game that was really defensive focused, and the offense had their fair share of issues, but I still feel fine with how they played, in part because J.K. Dobbins went on IR the Friday before the game. So they really had to quickly shift focus in the offense and what they were going to be able to call and what they were going to be able to do. And they went really pass happy. Bo Nix had 37 pass attempts in this game. They went for 295 yards and roughly 65% completion. So an all-around pretty solid game. The 17 carries that the backs did have went for 49 yards. No one had a 10-plus yard carry in this one. So they really need to try and improve this ground game before J.K. Dobbins gets back. Otherwise, this next upcoming stretch is going to be a little bit rough for them going forward. The defense played really well. Some nice bend don't break mentality they had going on for them. Mahomes threw the ball 45 times in this game. They went for 279 yards, a touchdown, and a very big time interception that came in the red zone and pretty much changed the feeling surrounding this game. The Broncos would get the first touchdown off of that interception as well. They held Kareem Hunt to 59 yards on the ground. Broncos have a comfortable lead in the division. They're feeling pretty solid. An offense that can have a big game if they seemingly need to. But with J.K. Dobbins' injury, there's going to be some questions there, so they come in at number 6. Number 5 is the Seattle Seahawks. And the fact that Sam Darnold had as bad of a game as he had, and the Seahawks still had the chance to win with a 61-yard field goal, is a bright spot in its own right. It still doesn't feel good, but it's a bright spot. Seattle's defense played plenty well enough to get this win. They kept a really solid Rams offense in check with only 21 points. But meanwhile, Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions in this game, 29 for 44 on completion, 279 yards. It was a rough game for Darnold that he still played okay in. Again, was enough for a win, but he wanted a better performance out of him. Jason, another game of over 100 yards receiving. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet combined for 104 yards through the ground, plus a touchdown. The rematch of this game in a few weeks is going to be fantastic. It's going to be great and they probably decide this division. I don't think this game showcased any fraud alert for Seattle. They played a really good Rams team. They did not play their best game by any means, and they still nearly won. If anything, it makes me feel a little bit better about the Seahawks, but the Rams defense is a very consistent defense. So when these two teams play next, is Sam Darnold going to have another poor performance like he also did last year against this Rams defense? We will see. The Seahawks come in at number 5. Number 4 is the Buffalo Bills. And Buffalo took that performance last week against Miami very, very personally. They went out there and let Josh Allen just have a day and let him cook. 317 yards through the air, 6 total touchdowns on the day. Allen played really, really, really well in this one. He did have 2 interceptions, including a weird chest pass early on in this game, but he didn't let it phase him, and they got a very nice win on top of it. The ground game took a massive backseat in this one as they really focused on Josh Allen, which I'm not surprised about. When in doubt, let Josh Allen be Josh Allen and lead this team. The defense made the plays when it needed to, both by picking off Baker Mayfield and by holding them to field goals and stuffing out their 2-point conversion attempts. The biggest instance was when Tampa got the interception that led to a 1st and goal from the 7, that the Buffalo defense stood tall and held them to a field goal and swing the momentum back in their favor. The Bills have a short week coming up against Houston. I would like to see a more complete offense from Buffalo as we head to the playoffs, but it's the Bills. When in doubt, Josh Allen's going to play really well. So for the regular season time being, the Bills are at number 4. Number 3 is the Philadelphia Eagles. And it wasn't the prettiest of wins. It's back-to-back weeks of very ugly wins for the Eagles. A similar stretch last year did occur. But these were 2 wins against really good teams and 2 teams that were viewed as contenders. The offense was rough throughout the day, though. Jalen Hurts had 335 yards on 50% completion. Saquon Barkley had only 3.2 yards per carry. A.J. Brown did get more involved in this game. He had about the average amount of targets you would want him to have, as he did last year, in that 7 range. So still a really solid game. He had half of the receptions for the Eagles in this one. The defense played great, though. They gave the Lions offense troubles the entire game, held Goff to the career-low completion percentage, and 0 for 5 on 4th down throughout the game. It was a defensive dominance showing by Philly on primetime, and this, I feel like, is a defense that can carry them in the playoffs and possibly to a repeat, but I would just simply like the offense to get to a consistent average level. They are not at that quite yet, but if they can just simply get to an average offense consistently, there's going to be a chance there for the Eagles to repeat. We'll see. For now, they come in at number 3. Number 2 is the Los Angeles Rams. They held on in the end. They got the big time win, but this game was close pretty much the entire time, despite how well the defense played. They picked off Sam Darnold 4 times in this game. The Rams got 14 points off of those turnovers. The other 2 drives after interceptions was a fumble after 2 plays and a 3-and-out. So would have liked to at least get a field goal off of one of those other 2 drives, but you still got the win, so who am I to complain? Seemingly missed opportunities, though, for the Rams were in this game. The offense didn't have a single drive in the second half that lasted longer than 5 plays. Stafford played pretty meh, 130 yards through the air. They did have 2 touchdowns, so there's that. The ground game was also playing great in this one. Kyron Williams had 91 yards on 12 carries. but 7 of those carries were all in the first half. So I'm shocked he wasn't utilized more in the second half to help close the game out. But the defense playing as well as they didn't need the extra help seemingly. It was a good performance. This is a great sign for the Rams for the rest of the way. They're sitting alone on top of that division right now. I'm not too worried, but this was a game of a lot of pros and a handful of cons. So there's room to improve for the Rams, which is scary for the rest of the NFL. They come in at number 2. And number 1, it's the New England Patriots. And they are back. I hate to say it, but they're playing some of the best team football I've seen this season. They're doing it on a consistent basis, having won 8 straight. Drake May had 281 yards on this day and a touchdown. Javion Henderson had another really solid show and 3 total touchdowns in this one, plus 62 yards on the ground. Stephon Diggs led the team in receiving with 105 yards on the day. The defense played really well also, holding Justin Fields to simply 116 yards through the air. He did have a touchdown, but it wasn't a good enough performance to where Justin Fields is getting benched now after this one. Even after leading the team in rushing with 67 yards, Brees Hall had 58 yards on 14 carries. And after the Jets' opening drive, the Pats defense forced 4 straight punts, including 3 straight 3-and-outs in this one. There's talks about strength of opponent, but they simply can only play who is in front of them. But it's still definitely a question come the playoffs. But more so, my thoughts is this is a young team. This is a pretty inexperienced team. Is that going to impact them in the playoffs? But at the same time, they are 5-0 on the road this season, which is really impressive no matter the opponent. The Patriots are back. They're one of the most complete teams in the NFL, seemingly right now. And they come in as the top team. Quick little rundown. Chicago Bears at 10, Los Angeles Chargers at 9, Detroit Lions at 8, Green Bay Packers at 7, Denver Broncos at 6, Seattle Seahawks at 5, Buffalo Bills at 4, Philadelphia Eagles at 3, Los Angeles Rams at 2, and the Dark Empire of the New England Patriots are back in the top spot. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.